Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
We pushed you over the edge, Chris.
On the dark side.
It's hard to distinguish Luke Skywalker. I'm an asshole, just so everybody knows.
Well, in the words of Pete Fletzer, welcome to Force Connect on Friday night, the live Friday night streaming Star Wars call-in talk show. We have to keep funneling that farther and farther down, as Patrick Kottner said, to make sure we get exactly our specific niche. But we're here on a Friday night, and we're here to talk Star Wars. And as you can see, Pete is not with us tonight. He had some family obligations, which we are glad for him to attend to as the dad of the bunch. I mean, I'm a dad too, but we all know he's much more grandfatherly than I am. But I am joined, as always, by my good friend, Mr. Chris Ryans. Christopher, how are you tonight?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm not the fatherly type either. I'm the uncle-y type. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Everybody needs a cool uncle.
That's right. And that's me.
Absolutely. How are you doing this week, my friend?
Not bad, man. Not bad. I'm real hyped to talk about this particular conversation that we're going to be talking about tonight. So
I am excited about this conversation as well. And in fact, I'm so excited about it that I spent the majority of the week thinking we were talking about something else. Because I only sometimes halfway pay attention. So, 50% is better than no percent. But I spent the better part of the week thinking that the focal point of this conversation was going to be Thrawn versus Tarkin, which is an adequate conversation, something to be that will come up, I think, as we talk tonight. And so as I texted you earlier today, following up on the Twitter poll that I put up, I said, hey, this is right, isn't it? And you're like, not so much. What we're really going to dig into tonight is we're going to talk about the TIE Defender versus the Death Star. And, as a military project, which one of those would you choose? Which one is, the superior option? So we're going to get into all of that tonight. We want to hear from you. This is the show where we take your calls. So here in just a few minutes, we are going to throw that link in the chat. We're going to start queuing you up. We're going to bring you in. We want to hear your thoughts. We do have our 2-minute take timer. We may or may not throw that out the window tonight. We'll see how it goes. But if you are a Patreon supporter, you automatically are exempt from the timer. We give you some extra time to crystallize those thoughts. Tell us the things that you think. So speaking of Patreon, while we're on the topic, it's time for housekeeping. We do that every week at the top of the show. As I mentioned, we do have a Patreon program as a part of the SSW Network. You can learn all about that if you go to theSSWnetwork.com. There you can learn about our Patreon program, the Around the Galaxy podcast of the Wills, which is not currently active, but I've got some things in mind that we're going to do sometime soon. We've kind of spun that off into our deep dive show. What are some things that we really want to get granular, nerd out on? And I have several ideas. One of them involves concept art, and I'm hoping to get maybe our friend Phil Showstack back on to talk about concept art, and a couple of other friends who love that the way I do. I've got a couple ideas for that. So Podcast of the Wills is not gone. It's just on a little bit of a creative vacation, let's say. We also have Force Connect, which we are doing right now on a Friday night. And you can be a part of that. You can support that through our Patreon. The big advantage to the Patreon, aside from the timer not being in effect on Friday nights, as I mentioned, is when we record new episodes of Around the Galaxy, you get to watch us record those live as our kind of our virtual live studio audience before the podcast drops in the audio feed, usually the following week. So just for example, in the last not even 7 days, if you were a Patreon subscriber, you would have gotten to see us record our episode with Deborah Wilson, where we interviewed her. Chris and Pete and I got to talk to her about Jedi Survivor, Seer's journey, what that looks like, the kind of how that story has played out. And in fact, one of our dedicated patrons, Mr. Angry Tasty Cakes himself, got a question answered for Deborah. He threw that in the chat while we were recording with her, and it was a great question. So we pulled that in. So that advantage is there. And then also, just last night, not 24 hours ago or so, we finished up recording with Mr. W. Earl Brown. This one was a big one for me because I am a huge Deadwood fan. There's a handful of TV shows that I rewatch on a yearly basis. Deadwood is one of them. And if you know Deadwood, he was Dan Doherty. He was the bartender in Deadwood. But he was also Tonti, the Weequay proprietor in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, in Freetown, in the bar where Cobb Vanth was, which was great synergy because Timothy Oliphant was the Marshal in Deadwood. He's the Marshal in Star Wars. So they have this kind of great parallel thing that happens. And he talks about that. He was also, if you're a fan of the Scream franchise, he was Kenny the cameraman in the very first Scream movie. He was Warren, who was the brother from Something About Mary, an amazing guy, an actor, a musician, a writer. We had a fantastic conversation. And like I said, our patrons got to watch that conversation live. The rest of you will get to check out the podcast this next week when it drops. And I can't wait for you to hear that conversation. So we would love for you to join our Patreon. I've spent too much time talking about this. Other housekeeping things, merchandise, t-shirts. We kind of went on a stretch there for a while where we had like a new t-shirt design every week. These were the ones that we debuted last week. We have the Weird Space Friends jersey, the Weird Space Friends pint glass. We also have the Motel Order 66 logo and design that kind of was a crystallization of one of Chris's ideas. Water bottles, mugs, stickers, you name it. It's on there. You can go to sswnetworkshop.com. Grab all of those things. We would love for you to rock our merchandise while you're out and about. And finally, and most pressing as far as news goes, this Sunday, not tomorrow, but the next day, my buddy Christopher Ryans, this guy right here, and the currently absent Pete Fletzer are going to be at Fan Expo in Philadelphia on Sunday, June the 4th, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, room 119A at the Pennsylvania Convention Center, for a live edition of Force Connect, and they're going to talk about the topic growing up Star Wars. Chris, give us just kind of a little capsulated, sneak preview of what y'all are going to talk about, what you're going to do on Sunday.
Well, Pete and I were thinking about, we're going to bring a bunch of old Star Wars figures, and then on the table, just play with them for an hour and have people watch us. And,
it works.
Stories are going to bounce back and forth. Like, yeah, we can do. No, we're going to be talking about just, it's pretty much growing up Star Wars. Like, it's what was it like for us growing up in Generation X as a Star Wars fan, like when it began, and then we're going to talk about the different generations and the differences in like the fabric of the fandoms as time moves on. Absolutely. And how it all correlates. So yeah, I can't wait to get down with that one.
It's going to be good stuff. I am very sad that I'm not going to get to be there. I had originally hoped to work it out to be able to ride up there and join you guys. But I did get a sneak preview earlier this week. Pete called me and we ran through kind of his ideas, the top of the presentation, some slides, some of that kind of stuff. And it's going to be good stuff. So I hope that if you are in the Philadelphia area on Sunday afternoon, check those guys out. I know we've got other friends that are going to be there. Keith and Kerwin are doing something, I think, on Saturday. I know Fantasy's going. I think Jared's going to be there. There's going to be a whole crew of folks in Philly. So check it out. Be there with these guys and, show some support, some live Force Connect. There will be stickers. There'll be some things to give away. So come find Pete and Chris and hang out with them. I know they would appreciate it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be Force Connect if I'm not drinking alcohol, and I am drinking alcohol. So don't worry. It is Force Connect. But that does also bring us to the point in the show where I raise a toast, and there's really only one toast for me to make tonight. It is the month of June. Yesterday was June the 1st. It is now June the 2nd. And it is Pride Month, and there's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of discourse going on right now, but I think it is very important to recognize that during the month of Pride Month, there are LGBTQTIA plus members of not only our Star Wars and fan community, but the communities we live in, our families, our friends. Yeah. These are people who are hurting. These are people who right now in our country are struggling. They're having a lot of rights taken away. And Pride is a reminder that, it started with protests in a club, the Stonewall Club in New York City. And it started with protest, and it has shifted and changed and evolved over the years. But that element has not gone away. And I think it's important, certainly during this month, but honestly, every month of the year, to remember those people in our community who need your support, whether you're a member of that community, whether you're not, whether you're an ally. It's important to show that love, to stand up, speak up for what's right, do what you can. And most importantly, we need to love each other. We need to show each other that there's too much bad in the world for us to not provide that amount of good and support to one another. So I want to raise my glass tonight to all of my friends, my family members that are in the LGBTQ community. We love you, we see you, and we want to be here for you. So cheers and happy Pride Month.
Cheers.
All right. So Chris, we are going to take a quick commercial break. When we get back from that break, I want you to kind of set us up on, the more in-depth, laying the groundwork for our topic tonight.
Sure.
And while you're doing that, I'll get the link in the chat and we're going to get this party started. And we're going to talk about TIE Defender and Death Star right after this short break. If I can find the video. Well, we are back with Force Connect, the live Friday night Star Wars call-in talk show where you are the guests and we just kind of throw some topics out there. Usually we talk about them. Sometimes we just go off in a whole other direction. But tonight that's not going to be the case because we have a fantastic topic on deck. And I'm going to throw it to you, Chris, to set that up for us.
Sure. So you know how I kind of hate questions like who would win, this person or that person.
That's right.
Which movie's better, this one or that one. If it's your favorite, it's your favorite, and that's the one that went stop. But one thing that really hit me that I've been wanting to talk about with someone for the longest time would be if you're a Rebels fan, and there was there was sort of like there was this race to see which one would get this imperial, like these imperial resources for these two projects, these two very important projects. And one was Project Stardust, which Krennic's Project Stardust, which was, of course, as we know, is the Death Star. The other one was the TIE Defender project that was Thrawn's. And since then, and I know that, thanks to Kanan's sacrifice, man, I can't go back. I can't watch that episode anymore. But back to Kanan's sacrifice, because of that, the TIE Defender project was shelved and Project Stardust had won over. In my ideal Star Wars situation, if Kanan survived, and the fuel depot on Lothal was never destroyed, which one would win out? And when I look at what the what the TIE Defender is as opposed to what the Death Star is, for me, I think that the TIE Defender project would be the right one to go with. This is it's a TIE fighter that's got, and I can read off some of these the laundry list of things it's got going for it. Of course, it's a twin ion engine or twin ion engine.
Yep.
It's got what does it have? It's got shields. It's got a hyperdrive. It's got a ridiculous amount of weaponry on it. Concussion missiles, ion torpedoes, proton torpedoes. It's got a tractor beam. If you had a massive fleet, and they could, of course, they're like Doritos. They make all kinds. It's TIE fighters like crazy. So if they had a massive fleet of these things, yeah. Sorry, Dale. Yeah, I know. I should. I know it's been 5 years, but but I think that if you had that massive fleet of these things, the rebellion would not have gotten as far as it did. There would be no need for. I just think that it would have been over for any kind of uprising at all. The rebellion,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, the Empire would have won. Palpatine would still be in power. Vader would be where he's at. That's what I think. And I know that the Death Star is a one-stop shop of destruction and intimidation. And that to me feeds into the Empire's, and of course Palpatine, like into their their hubris and their arrogance and wanting to be like the big swinging, in the galaxy. The TIE Defender thing, if you had a fleet of those, it's over. It's over. It would suppress rebellion anywhere. Whereas the Death Star, yes, it can go into hyperdrive, whatnot, but it wouldn't be as mobile, I think, as the Death Star wouldn't be as mobile as that fleet. And it would have been over as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Nick, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, and I think there's a couple of things that are worth pointing out here as we talk about this. Yeah, exactly. In case somebody doesn't know, just because, we've had, the original trilogy for 40 years now, we've had TIE fighters for going on more than that, 45 years. Original TIE fighters did not have shields. Original TIE fighters were kind of, in my mind, the original TIE fighters were kind of like a Kawasaki Ninja motorcycle. Like, you grabbed on that thing, it went really fast and it had guns. And like, if you hit something, if somebody hits you a little bit, you're done. Like, but they were disposable. There were tons and tons of them. They cranked them out of the line. It was, two sandwiches in the middle section, and they just cranked them out. So they didn't have to have shields. They didn't have hyperdrives. And that was kind of the trade-off, because when they were battling X-Wings were fast, but they weren't as fast as TIE fighters, if I understand that right. But TIE fighters, X-Wings had shields, X-Wings had hyperdrives. So it became a different thing. And so it was kind of this balance of speed versus power. Just like, JD said in here, we're talking about big versus, multi-tool. Like there's a difference in there. And then with the Death Star, like you said, it's a big one-stop shop kind of deal that becomes like, if you had an apartment inside of a Sherman tank, like, yeah, I'm going to go downstairs, I'm going to have a sandwich, and then I'm going to come back up and blow some things up. It's a very different thing. What are you trying to do there? In fact, it's a great point. Angry Tasty Cakes throwing it in there. TIE fighters didn't even have basic life support. They had helmets, they had the chest, the breathing tubes and the whole deal, which somewhere along the line that shifted, because we see certainly in Rebels a lot of stolen TIE fighters and people just, hanging out talking, no helmets and TIE fighters. So they got, they improved that somewhere along the line. The cost of helmets probably went up. I'm sure that was it. But I think when it comes down to it, and I hadn't thought about this until I had a drink with friend of the show, Jeff Qualio, earlier this afternoon, and we were talking about this for a minute. On spec, the question that we asked in the poll online was, would you pick a TIE Defender? Would you pick the Death Star? A fleet of TIE Defenders, that'll mess your junk up. Like, there's a lot that can be done there between the tractor beams holding somebody in place so somebody else can come and take them out. The shields are a game changer, and I went and rewatched the episode of Rebels that, where they steal the Defender and, all that. Those 3 wings, there's 2 guns on each of those 3 wings. So you're looking at 6 guns there, 2 on the front of the main, cabin or whatever. So 8 guns, and it spins in a circle. So it's kind of like a flying Gatling gun. Like, we're just going to burn a hole in something. So it's hard to argue with the TIE Defender as the choice, but then you have this big hulking thing of the Death Star inching towards, certain death inching towards you, essentially. Unless you know about that one little, like, HVAC compartment down in the middle. So yeah, it's hard not to lean towards the TIE Defender if you're asking me to choose one.
And I mean, like, if you think about it, like, yes, they would have been under Imperial control still, but Jeddah would not be the hellscape that it is right now. You know that if you read the comics. And Alderaan would have, also been incredibly oppressed, but it would have still been there. We would have still had their culture. It wouldn't have been wiped out. And think of all the resources that were spent, and natural resources and everything, all the metal that was spent to make the Death Star. If that had went into a fleet of these TIE defenders, like I keep saying, it's over. It's over. If I was if I didn't want the Empire to be destroyed, as that's freaking come back to the galaxy. Oh my God, TIE defenders, no doubt. Like this thing is. Hold on, let me bring it up real quick.
Yep.
Look at this bad boy. Look at that.
It's like if somebody like if somebody attached throwing stars to a throwing star. Like let's just keep piling it on here, man. Let's go.
Yeah. The fact that it has shields, and no other, Imperial starfighter or just starfighter period, really. I don't think any of the Rebellion ones do either. Except
X-Wings had shields.
Maybe X-Wings had shields. Okay.
X-Wings had shields, yeah.
But yeah, this one, it's got shields, hyperdrive, and tractor beam and all that. Wingtip LS 9.3 laser cannon, 6 of them. Those are the two that are on right on the tips of each one. Warhead, 2 warhead launchers, chin mounted LS 9.3 laser cannons. Jeez, it's over. It would have been over. I don't know what kind of politicking would have gone into play to maybe keep the Death Star in play, but thanks to the hubris, thanks to the arrogance, a major mistake was made in my view.
Right. Absolutely. Well, we've got a couple of callers hanging out in the background. Why don't we get one of their thoughts? Why don't we roll a video and let's see what the general population thinks about this very hot topic you've thrown our way.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
Greetings, Exalted One.
There he is. The Iron Man himself.
How's it going?
What's up, my friend?
Keeping the streak alive.
I'm doing pretty all right.
Excellent. Everything going your way this week?
Mostly.
Good. Glad to hear it.
So we were at Pete.
That's right. Before we get to the timer, we're not going to put you on the clock just yet. It's an easy Friday night. Ease us into your thoughts on this. Where are you with TIE Defender and Death Star?
See, when I started thinking about Death Stars, eventually I started thinking about how in the hell did the Final Order be able to produce a bunch of Star Destroyers that have Death Star lasers on them, like an entire million fleet. Like how? Like it took 19 years for them to put the dish onto the Death Star. And I'm supposed to believe, in 30 years they're gonna have a million times that.
Yeah, I think mostly that was the Kyber crystal. That was the issue with why it took so long.
I do know about the Kyber crystal stuff from Mexico. I read a few of the comics where it delves into that, how Ochi gets blinded. But it still feels a bit. It feels like it's being stretched too much for me personally as a story point. I'm just like, sure. I understand what you're telling me as explanation. I'm saying it's weak.
Well, and I'm not going to even say necessarily that you're wrong, because it's no secret how much I love The Last Jedi. I will say one of the handful of things that raised my eyebrow when I watched that movie was the line, "It's just miniaturized Death Star tech," when they have that thing that they just, nail down to the sand to blast open the door when they're on crate. They're like, oh, so that's what we've done. We've just miniaturized the Death Star. And then, like you said, now we're attaching it to Star Destroyers. It becomes the question that I think that was asked on Star Wars Minute one time about, at what point do we just have a gun that shoots lightsabers? Like that takes care of everything.
I'm on two opinions about the miniaturized Death Star tech. I think it's more about to make people that don't understand that is dangerous. It's like
Right.
the viewer. To me, that's more of a line for the people watching it. You know, the casual, the regs in the fandom going to see the movie. But at the same time, I'm just like, it is like saying that it's a diet Death Star would be a insult to the Death Star, because I'm like, Finn is able to get in like right in front of his iris and not be melted right before it shoots, and it's like clearly heating up. And I'm just like, if that's the power we're talking about, it's not that crazy, and like it can't blow up like an entire fleet. It can't blow. We know it can't blow up a planet.
Right.
It took down a door.
Took down, as I believe, as they said in the movie, a big ass door. So
yeah,
It's a
that was the parlance of, you know, what they used in that. So anyhow, so it seems like you're pretty solidly on Team TIE Defender. Am I reading that correctly?
What? I didn't see what
that's what we're talking about, brother.
but I know, but I'm just like, I said nothing about TIE Defenders.
I know. I'm trying to push you, Eric.
Yeah,
I'm
trying to
keep...
get you.
You can just say, what do you think about them? I think its design is very goofy.
Okay.
And I'm talking about this from like not so much the artistic side, but the architect side. Because I'm like, okay, so in Mandalorian we see how the wings fold so we can land, because obviously landing on wingtips can make you land. How in the hell is a TIE Defender going to collapse all those wings up?
Well, they're going to have fancy little landing stands that just.
See, Chris didn't think about this. You see, you know, his gears going right now.
I'm looking at it. I'm going, as long as they can suppress uprisings,
who cares how they land?
Yeah,
how they land.
Let's land them like old school rockets, you know, just this way, and they just launch straight up in the air. That works.
See, maybe they weren't expecting that anyone that flies one of this is going to survive. He's just like, oh, well, this is like a kamikaze pilot. They're just going to die. We don't need to replace them. We don't need them to land.
Gotcha.
Apparatuses to make that happen.
Okay.
Well, and I'll be honest, I spent a lot of time as a kid wondering what the hell the deal was with the ladder that Luke used to get into his X-Wing that looked like just a ladder somebody leaned up against the side of it. And then he flew and it went away. But then when he landed on like Dagobah or somewhere else, that ladder wasn't there. It didn't like go into the side of the X-Wing. You know,
yeah, it should be foldable.
That's right. You know, get like a rope ladder, kick it over the side like it's a pirate ship. Exactly. JD knows what I'm talking about.
Or a
it
helicopter
lands on its butt. That may be the T-shirt for next week. It lands on its butt with just a TIE Defender pointing up in the air. And that could be it.
They probably
Eric,
like
before
bats,
we
like the what do you call them? My
exactly
favorite TIE fighter, the Interceptors. Yeah,
the Interceptors. They just hang and they just drop down and head out. Well, before we get you out of here, we've got another caller hanging out, waiting to dutifully follow you as he does every week. What are your parting thoughts for us before we move you on down the line?
Geode Moon destroying Chewbacca, Zilla Ray.
Oh man, he's back to the old favorites. That's it.
Boy.
His time is clearly up.
Yep. Well, 3,
Eric.
2, 1. Let's jam.
Right.
I love your T-shirt.
I may have pulled the trigger a little quick, but he was singing his favorite song. We just had to keep it moving. Excellent. How about let's do this, Chris? Let's take another quick break before we get to our next caller. I'm going to try and help Pete out with the editing by, hitting some of these call breaks in the right time slots. So we will take a break, and when we get back, we will hear from our friend, Mr. Angry Tasty Cakes.
Pete Fletcher of ATG Cast is a Disney shill. Oh yeah, big time Disney shill.
I believe that you are a certified daddy. Like Pedro Pascal's a daddy. Like, certified daddy.
He interviewed this guy. Like, how does this guy, who's not even monetized on YouTube, get this interview?
So how did you know? Because I'm a nerd.
The only live Star Wars fan talk show that takes your calls. Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
You will not meet nicer people. Whoop, I'm at point. There and there.
All right, where's something that he was shilling? I know I saw some bad stuff from him this week. He got another interview. What a shill.
Yeah.
And now, I get to cap it off with the best of all and be coming back to a show that I dearly love and admire. So thanks for having me.
We keep it honest and real, make room for constructive disagreement, and have a zero tolerance for jerks.
I'm an asshole, just so everybody knows.
We are OG OT fans.
Wedge was obviously a character that you had to use if you were going to do Rogue Squadrons.
And we recognize the gift of Star Wars living on for another generation and beyond.
The galaxy isn't growing to push people out. It's growing to let more people come in.
I'm not seeing anything like too chilly, even though it's like, it's bad. See, he knows he's a shill. He like embraces that he's a shill.
No.
No one watches his channel. He's getting all these interviews on his channel. Like, how does he pull that off? He's definitely connected, and he's a shill.
I have had the best time ever on Around the Galaxy. Thank you so much.
I'll tell you what, Chris, it never gets old. It
Good old Wilo Ren. Yeah.
It makes me laugh every time. And I think my favorite part of it is just how the goal he had, like there's no research done ahead of time. Like it unspools as he's doing it. Like, oh, I know it's in here somewhere. Wait, that's not that bad. Like it just keeps getting farther and farther away from it.
Why do they get these interviews? Because we're not a-holes.
Exactly.
I actually went
and checked yesterday. I actually think he pulled the video because there was so little there. I didn't see it on his channel anymore, which cracked me up even more. But
what a guy.
We miss our shill. We miss Grandpa Shill tonight, but again, he's out doing some quality fathering, so we certainly
the Shillo Beast. Oh, there it goes.
There's the shirt. There's the shirt. Eric, I hope you're still watching.
Beast. Yeah.
Shillo Beast shirt incoming. Christopher, we need to hit another caller. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Go for Papa Palpatine.
You have a collect call from
Darth Vader.
I gotta take this. Hold on.
Star Shiller. That's another good one.
Man, the hits just keep coming.
You're a genius.
We're gonna add
shill, bro.
Do you even shill, bro? We're just gonna add to that growing tagline of what this show is to also include the show where the guests come up with new shirts every week.
Yeah.
Angry, what's up, my friend?
I'm going to apologize in advance if my energy is very low. I wound up getting hurt at work today, so I'm not feeling all that great. Yeah, forklift cage right on my foot. So
thanks for that.
Yeah.
Are you all drugged up right now?
No. My mama didn't raise no coward. No, it was just So
I'm gonna take the
pain. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. But I got really excited when I saw
from the injury.
Yeah.
That's right.
I went through Jedi Survivor again. Yes. I did it for a second time. And there's just so much in that game.
Yes.
I'm still finding new stuff. So that was been my week. Other than
awesome.
Seeing
and
what the poll was.
Every time Seer showed up, you're like, she answered my question.
Yeah. I was like,
she said my name.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And yes, lightsaber gun does exist.
Yes, it does. Read the comics.
That's
See?
Yeah.
Or timelines.
That again? I've heard of that.
Or timelines.
Ooh,
I just got that
need a copy of timelines.
Yeah. I got that last week. I have not read it yet. I'm an idiot.
It's on like the second page.
I broke out because of our
yeah. It's right there. You flip it and you're like, oh dang, there's a lightsaber gun. Yes.
Yeah.
So
well, I broke out yesterday because of our conversation with Earl Brown. He mentioned a couple of different times the Tashin Star Wars Archives book, and I freaking love this thing. This and the Lucasfilm Archives book that has all the indie and Star Wars stuff. That's been in big rotation for me in the last week or so.
Yeah, I have a whole library of that stuff out in my other room.
That's awesome.
My girlfriend comes over. She's like, "What the fuck?"
What's going on here?
I'm like, "Don't judge me.
That's right.
You can't judge me."
Well, TIE Defender and Death Star, my friend. What do you got for us?
I'm in the middle. as usual, only because I truly think that each of those devices were like a physical manifestation of who those people were as individuals. And like they both served a purpose, and it might not have been the purpose we saw in like Rebels or in Rogue One, but they still served what they were supposed to do. So like for me, when you think of Thrawn, I think calculating, surgical, I'm going to kill you with pinpricks, not one heavy-handed blow. And I think that's what the TIE Defender was designed for. Because they would only have one per squadron, not a squadron of, you know, like I'm going to hit you hard.
But it was still experimental, so I think that's why there wasn't that many. But if they had replaced, you know, not replaced, but I mean like build, you know, maybe like stop production on those TIEs, and not the bombers, but the TIEs and the interceptors. It went strictly TIE Defenders. It's all, you know, it's all
if they had like a quasar with a wing of them and they would patrol like a couple planets, that would have made more of an impact than you know, something like that. So I get that. And the Death Star, on the other hand, Tarkin was all about that show, that pompous, not pompous. What's the word? He wanted like the magnificence of something, the splendor, the spectacular,
the spectacle.
Reveal. And the Death Star did that, you know, because Tarkin was it, and you also have to think too, and because you kind of have to think like Tarkin wasn't a military leader. He was a governor, right? He loved keeping his hands as far away from something as possible. Thrawn, on the other hand, he was the Grand Admiral. Like he was a military leader, so he knew how to make like he knew how to make the TIE Defender work.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I did dig into this a little bit last week after I misspoke and called him Grand Admiral Tarkin, and Chris corrected me. It's my understanding that the Grand Moffs had purview over military and political things, and like when we see Tarkin, certainly in Clone Wars, you know, he's in a military mode at that point. I think he's just Admiral Tarkin at that point. You know, so there is some crossover, but certainly by the time we get to him, I mean, I guess basically Rogue One, because Rogue One, New Hope run together. He is a Grand Moff. He is, you know, he's at the top of the pyramid, or the giant space ball, as it were, and he's riding being in charge of shit. And you know, that's kind of his deal, like you said, kind of hands removed, wearing those slippers. You know, being who he is and doing what he's doing. But it's a really good comparison to have them be kind of reflections. And even if you put Krennic instead of Tarkin in that place, having the Death Star be that reflection of grandeur. We're going to scare you on sheer volume and scale. Like this big thing comes around the corner and you crap your pants because it's bigger than anything you've ever seen, and it can shoot at you. That's terrifying.
And it's also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's right. And I was gonna say, whereas Thrawn and the TIE Defender, you know, one of the first real times we get to see Thrawn early on when he shows up in Rebels is he's fighting in his office, you know, training, hand-to-hand combat, surgical, like you said, targeted, you know, it's very intentional, I guess is the word that I want to use.
But we can't discount Tarkin, because if you read the comics, you can find out that he is a hunter. He is a warrior. This guy. Maybe not.
He knows how to shoot.
Knows how to shoot. This guy knows how to kill. He knows how to hunt. He had to hunt Darth Vader and won. So like, I can't put that like, you know, like he's soft. Like I know you're not saying that Tarkin's soft, but Thrawn is definitely a more military minded individual than Tarkin is, or Krennic, because Krennic is more. You know, he's more on the science
Krennic's
side.
Still climbing the ladder. I mean, he's you know, he wants recognition. He's worked hard.
He wants all the recognition. He wants people to see him, because, like, you know, one of the things that was said is he is not to go off base, but he was not, like, you know, one of the core worlds. That's why he's got that Australian accent. You know, you know, that space Australian accent. You know, what other Imperial officers walking around with a cape? You know. So it's all about being noticed. What bigger, better way than with this Death Star and with this kyber crystal, you know, weapon. But to me, the Death Star is you've got the biggest deltoids on the planet, and you shoulder check
everyone.
You know,
you have the biggest deltoids, but you skipped leg day.
Like, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the quads are garbage. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the defender, all you do is legs, so you have no upper body strength. Like,
well, I was gonna say, is the defender just CrossFit? Like, is that what the defender is?
Zumba?
Ooh.
You know,
but
a little more total body.
Yeah, no, I wish. But no, I think when it comes down to it, too, I think Thrawn and Tarkin and their mentality with these objects was really kind of the antithesis of the Empire, too. Like, the Empire was all quantity. They're going to rule through sheer force of numbers.
Right.
They don't care if you're well trained. They don't care if your gun doesn't work. They don't care if you can't see a thing out of your helmet. They don't care. They're just going to throw you body after body after body. Whereas, like, Thrawn is just like, all right, I have 10 of these. How can I do the most damage with 10 of these? And Thrawn is just like, we have a Death Star. Yeah, it's big, and yeah, it's fearful, but I'm not just going to haul off willy-nilly and just start attacking random planets. Like, there's you know, how can I do as much damage psychologically with this weapon? You know, which is the complete opposite of what most of the other admirals and Moffs were doing at the time, where they had an entire fleet. Oh, that planet didn't give me grain. Well, guess what? I'm about to blow it up. You know, they weren't willy-nilly with what they had, and I think that's actually kind of cool. But I wish, and this is the point where I'm kind of like, man, I really wish those old GameCube games, what is it, Rebel Assault and stuff like that, were canon, because you actually fight the TIE Defenders during their like main production stage in a couple of the missions. And and part of me is just kind of wishing they brought that storyline into Rebels, but like dialed back the timeline a little bit, because you play as like Luke in that Rebel Assault game, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like if they took that event but dialed it back into the Rebel show, it would have done wonders for it, because like the Rebels see it and then they make the B-wing to counter it. And then you have the First Order who took a TIE fighter and a TIE Defender and smashed them together, and now you have the TIE SF. So it's like it took the best of both. I don't know. It's a huge convoluted mess, and I'm all in for it because it's Star Wars.
Exactly. Like, what are we talking about?
I want it to work.
And I think another thing, and I just thought about this as you were talking, the tactical nature of certainly who Thrawn is, and who Thrawn is as someone who's championing the Defender. I am currently rereading original Thrawn trilogy, and so I just jumped into Dark Force Rising, the second one. Finished the other one, Heir to the Empire, last week. Started in the second one, but there's a central tenet in that book. Sorry if you haven't read it, from 35 years ago, where
spoiler alert.
Thrawn's tactics are he's stealing mole mining ships and he's cloaking asteroids, or as it turns out, only a couple of asteroids, to shroud a planet into being afraid to leave. And so it's about tactics. It's about precision. It's not about overwhelming force. Like, he's using other things and tactics to scare people, which I think feeds into that same thing. You know, how do we have these, highly advanced things? We can't have a bunch of them, but we can use them in some very specific ways to control people. The other thing you talked about, sheer overwhelming force in numbers, and the kind of the MO of the Empire. We even get that in one of the conversations in Andor. I think it's one of the ones when they're at the Rebel camp and they're sitting there, and somewhere around one of the Nimic conversations, that same thing comes in there. It's like, they'll just keep coming. They're not, there's more, they overwhelm you until you give up. Like, that's really what it comes down to.
TIE fighters are the Ford Escort of the Star Wars universe. They're just going to keep pumping them out.
Wow.
That's right. One after another.
That's all it is. Oh,
crunch all you want. We'll make more. Yep. Yeah. They're Doritos.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty
much.
You
can have them in any color you want, as long as it's black.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah. We give you all kinds of choices as long as it's black.
Yep.
Unless it's Inferno Squadron, and then they have one red stripe right down the middle.
There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. It's interesting to how this kind of plays together. So I gotta go. 100%. I gotta go read Thrawn. So,
which one?
All of them.
The two trilogies, or the two novel trilogies, or you read the comic already?
Yeah.
Okay.
I ain't Pete.
Hey, look! I have a comic book right here. I have a comic book right here.
It's the same one that I gave you. The same one.
Hey, look, it's got the other one on the backside of it.
Oh man,
I've even taken
much
it out of the
variety.
bag.
I'll send you some more, man. I'll send you some Son of Staros.
See,
I got
there
you
you go.
covered, brother.
I did just buy
That's
the new
right.
Afra, so I gotta.
Oh
I gotta
man,
finish
did you read it?
Not yet.
Oh,
Not
oh
yet.
man, the last page. That's all I'm gonna say, bro.
Okay, well,
Oh man.
spoiler. You know.
Well, listen,
That's right.
You're
That's right. He's not in that business.
Yeah.
Eric, I'm so sorry. Angry. before we get you out of here, I do know that you had something else that you wanted to share
Yes,
with us.
I promise I'm gonna keep this short.
That's right. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat while you talk.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep this short because I'm sure everyone's sick of hearing my nasally voice. So if any of you are familiar with the reaction community on YouTube, Kyle Katarn and Louise and Louise and all of them, recently there's been Late to the Party is the one I'm talking about here. They just suffered a medical emergency, and they are two of the sweetest people in the Star Wars community. Like I go to YouTube if I want to have good vibes from people. That's who I go to as well. And they just suffered a medical emergency. So I wanted to kind of signal boost this a little bit. They started a GoFundMe recently. Robert, one half of Late to the Party, just suffered a pretty bad bleeding episode, and he's currently in the ICU. And they are good people.
Those guys. Yeah.
And they are good people. And so, like I said, I want to signal boost their GoFundMe. So if anyone finds it, in their heart to help them out, it would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, there's a Star Wars community coming together for forces
100%.
of good.
Yeah.
So
well, I dropped the link to the GoFundMe in the chat. So if y'all want to click on that and support them in that way, absolutely you should. I don't know where they're located, but I will throw out there in the off chance somebody lives in that general area. But something that everybody can do, and I'm going to harp this because it's what I do for my real life job. Donate blood is one of the simplest ways that you can help save multiple lives. A single whole blood donation can potentially save 3 separate lives because we take your blood, we separate it into platelets, plasma, and red cells. And so one person may need one of those products, one person may need another. And find a community blood bank, somebody near you. Not the pay plasma centers. That's a whole different thing. That's not the same thing. But find a community blood bank, donate blood. It really is one of the few things that, takes such a small amount of time, can make such a huge difference. And of all the scientific advancements that we have at this stage in our history and our world, you still can't fake blood. Synthetic blood is not a thing. So if you can donate blood, that's going to help save somebody's life, whether it's this person or somebody in your community. So I'll tag that on there if I may.
And after giving, you also get a cookie. So
you get snacks, you get t-shirts, like there's all kinds of good stuff. I'll tell you, as an industry insider, as an industry insider, Nutter Butter cookies are the favorite of blood donation centers. So if you don't have a peanut problem and you like a Nutter Butter, go give some blood. Awesome.
That's all I got.
Angry, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing that with us. And we hope everybody, if you are able to, can go support that. We're going to send you on your way. We're going to talk a few more minutes, see if anybody else wants to give us a call, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, I'll be here.
Awesome. See you, buddy.
All right, man.
Love those callers. Yeah. Always good to be here. Always good to feel their support and know that they're hanging out with us. I did just right before the GoFundMe link a couple minutes ago, I did drop the link to call in the chat. I'm going to do that one more time real quick. If you want to call in and join us tonight, we would love to hear from you. It doesn't have to be about TIE Defender versus the Death Star. If you've got some other Star Wars thing on your mind, call us and talk to us about it. That's what we're here for. That's what we do. Here we go. Link in the chat. While we wait, while we hang out another few minutes, Chris, what else is popping off for you Star Wars wise? I know you're always getting new comics, so you get more new stuff than we do on a regular basis, but what's feeding your excitement?
Well, if I could go back to this whole TIE Defender thing, or at least, what do you think the galaxy would be if Thrawn had gotten his way, or maybe if Thrawn, just like he was in Heir to the Empire, like in the original trilogy era, was the militaristic mastermind and was able and had like full authority over the military. What kind of galaxy do you think that would be?
I think it'd be one that has a lot more Imperial control than the one that we get.
Yeah.
I think the rebels would have had a lot harder time. I mean, obviously they're going up against the Emperor, they're going up against Vader. Emperor's the long game. Emperor is, I mean, he's a strategist of his own right. You know, bigger and whatever, but yeah, I think if Thrawn had gotten more power, more control, more opportunity, I think things could have gone differently.
Yeah.
It's a very good what if kind of question.
Oh, we have another caller coming in.
We do indeed. Yeah. Let me get a video here. Where did I lose my tab? And let's talk to this young man.
And who might you be?
There he is.
There's my guy.
The traveling man.
Good evening. Yes. Still unpacking
Welcome home.
From the last one.
That's right. Iceland.
Yeah, how was your trip, bro?
Iceland. I'm getting a weird echo.
I don't hear it on my end.
Yeah.
It's very strange. It's like a few seconds off, and I don't have any other tabs open. Hang on one sec. All right, let's try it again. No,
Any
I
better?
still hear me now.
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you.
Weird. Anyway,
you need to hit a refresh and try it one more time.
Yeah, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to try.
That's right.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Nick.
Okay, hit me.
All right, Disney Plus. 4 new movies. Or was it 4? Yeah, 4. 4. Yeah, 4 new movies just showed up. Why don't you want to talk about that for a second?
Do I? I've watched 3 of the 4 so far. Surprising expectations. I watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull first when those movies appeared on Disney Plus. Yeah. Mostly because it's the one that I've seen the least, and it was the one that, you know, it felt the most fresh. I've seen the others, of course, a bajillion times. I had Temple of Doom on earlier today.
You know what I mean, Eric.
Yeah. What I will say is I'm excited to finish rewatching the 4, of course, because I mean, you put it in front of me, I'm going to watch it just like I do with Star Wars. So this is a huge boon for me. In case anybody's wondering, it's these gems right here.
Yes.
No, let's try that the other way.
Yes.
I do need that bonus material. I haven't clicked the extras tabs yet to see what's in there.
Ooh, yeah, I got to do that. I haven't watched, like, Street Fighter 6 came out this week, so I've been occupied. So I have not watched it. But
yes. But I will also say I'm very excited for the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. I have seen bits and pieces of those.
Did that drop on there too?
Yes, it is also on there.
Nice. Oh man!
So I have seen bits and pieces of those over the years, but I'm excited to kind of, in earnest, start that from the beginning and watch that.
Nice. Oh, Brian's back.
Oh, we got it. Let's do it.
Yep.
And who might you be?
There he is.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Cobb Vanth, we've got some new Justified coming up soon.
Yes, we do. The trailer for that dropped this week, and I was very excited to see that.
Yep, Holly had him on Deadwood, and I got him on Justified, and then we both got him in Star Wars, and getting more Justified at least. Fingers crossed on more Star Wars. We'll see.
I was hoping that I was going to convince W. Earl Brown to tell me that he was going to somehow show up in the new Justified, but I think the only one episode of Justified he was in, when he was the prisoner who took the courtroom hostage, did not, that character probably didn't have a life ahead of him other than going back to jail. So,
although they've done weirder things, like Ed Asner was in, I didn't watch Hawaii Five-0 as a kid, but I was aware of it. Apparently he played a character who went to jail in the original run 30 years ago, and then they rebooted it like very recently and brought him back as that character, like having served his time and was now out 30 years later.
Wow,
that was a fun idea. I love all these returning character things 30 years later. That seems to be
well, and that actually could totally be the case. I mean, this is set 10 years after the original series ended. He could have done his time. He could have whatever. Or to add some other synergy, just like Deadwood, they could simply just bring him back as a completely different character, because they also did that in Deadwood with the guy that played Jack McCall. I can't think of the actor's name. He was in the early season, and then he comes back as Mr. W in the later season. You know, you find an actor you like, you just, you know, dirty him up, change his look, and go, no, not the same guy. What are you talking about?
Sure.
Awesome. How was Iceland?
It was amazing, cold, fun company. I don't know if
daylight all the time. Daylight all the time.
That was very, very strange thing. I imagine, you know, they're completely used to it, but it was odd for us. It was great to, like, you know, go out and drink all night long, because it was never really night.
Exactly.
You step outside, you could still read, you know, under the sky. Although you miss stars at some point. I missed stars. But they had heavy curtains, so you could pretend it was night in your room at least.
Very good.
So let me ask you this, Brian. Are you and Holly going back to a Starlight Cruiser one more time before?
Yeah, I am. I'm a little torn, because I have been the kind of person who I would rather hold on to the old memory than the new memory of, you know, stuff falling apart or one. It's not a sad thing now. It was decades ago, but like at my father's funeral, I didn't want to go up to the casket, because I was like, I don't want to remember him that way. It's like, I don't want to experience the situation as it is now. I'll keep that happier memory. So I was kind of torn on going back. Holly really wants to go back, because she completely fell in love with the place, obviously. She wants to see Wani again. So yeah, it's going to be a different experience, but I'm going to enjoy seeing everybody else enjoy it, because they booked solid all the way up until the final day. I'm like, where were you people all alone? But I mean, people can't, you know, they have their own schedules and budgets, and you can't always make it work when you want to make it work.
Yeah.
Well, it seems only appropriate now that it's shutting down that you boost as much silverware and glassware on your way out and, you know, shove those in your suitcase.
Yeah, we'll go with a couple of empty Rubbermaid bins. It's kind of
and I will even add, if I can reach it. It has magnified the importance of the project that you and I have talked about a long time ago, but I still have my original Galactic Star Cruiser cookie, and I bought online. I bought a lucite or a cube kit that comes with a lamp base, and I'm going to encase it in lucite, and it's going to become a lamp in the back of my studio. So
nice.
This limited edition Galactic Star Cruiser cookie is going to become the rarest one of a kind Star Cruiser memorabilia you can find.
Chris, I will raid you all the cookies you want, man.
Thank you, Brian.
There were a couple of friends of ours who had plans to go later in the year, and they weren't ready to quite do it on their own. So the rooms got 4 places to sleep. So we invited them, and they accepted and will join us for that. So we could squeeze one in before it was too late. There's a couple other people that we know that we got to know on board, like some cast members. We're trying to arrange, see if they can schedule themselves on board, so we'll see them too. I'm just I want to believe that they're not gonna bulldoze the place. I want to believe that it'll like get mothballed. They'll figure something out where more people can afford to go.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's a LARP, maybe it's just a day trip over there. I don't know. I hope they don't bulldoze the place though.
Yeah, it's still a goal of mine to go, because I like, you know, I so desperately wanted to have that experience, like especially, you know, when you're gracious enough to, like, you know, live stream with us from Starlight on Bro Axiom, and that was just, man, I would have loved to have been some kind of like First Order stoolie or something like that. That would have been, it would have been great. Give me an excuse to wear a cape. Would have been,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm half excited and half like, I'm gonna cry the whole time.
Yeah.
In the meantime, though, Chris, I think you should just embrace your cape wearing in everyday life. Like, why not start with Sunday at Sunday at Fan Expo Philly? Just break that cape out.
I mean, yeah. I can get away with it there, but just walking around Philly, no, I don't know if that's gonna fly. But,
side note: Holly's actually going to be in Philly for some work thing coming up soon. So I don't know that it's like an extended duration thing. If she could swing by the shop or anything.
Yeah, let me know.
But I'll tell her to wave in your general direction. You might be
that'd be awesome.
Several blocks away.
Go fly by, away from.
Yeah,
exactly. Awesome. Brian, it's so good to see you. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for always sharing your adventures with us. Like Chris said, we always appreciate when we get a live stream, we get a call. I know one night I was sitting out here hanging out, not online, and I got a text. It was like, hey, you want to see this thing? And you called me and just gave me the walk around tour. So we always appreciate certainly what you and Holly bring to the fandom, but just how much fun that you have and you bring everybody else along. So thank you. And it's always good to see you.
I'm trying to thank you guys. I enjoy getting to see you guys whenever I can, and I hope we can meet up. If not Japan, then sooner, maybe Dragon Con.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Will happen in the country that we'll get to go to. I don't know if I'll make it up to Philly Expo, but Dragon Con, San Diego, Emerald City, New York Comic Con, something.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Make some magic happen.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, we're going to send you on your way, and we will talk to you again soon.
Death Star.
See ya. See, that's the kind of cliffhanger I like to leave you on. right there in that moment.
That was awesome. He chose the Death Star.
He did. How about that? Well, Christopher, I think we've managed to. I think we've managed to do it tonight. I think we've managed to accomplish the things we set out to. We had a great conversation. Thank you to everybody who watched. Thank you to everybody who called in. We love hearing from you. That really is one of the cornerstones of this show. And that's what we want it to be. We want to hear from our friends, our fans, the people that watch and hang out with us, because we all love Star Wars. And what you love about Star Wars makes me more excited about Star Wars the majority of the time. Like, that's one of those things. The fandom, the positivity, the love is contagious. So thanks for always hanging out with us on a Friday night. Before we get out of here, Chris, let's plug some things. What is happening in the Bro Axiom world?
Well, this Sunday is going to be a birthday celebration for Mike Roker, who is turning the tenderly young age of 37. And so it'll be a birthday bash for him. And we'll be talking about all the stuff that he wants to talk about. So I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about Street Fighter. We're going to be talking about, or they, I should say, they're going to be talking about the new, amazingly perfect, just as good as the first, and still the best Spider-Man movie with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It was incredible. Y'all got to see it.
Can't wait.
Tuesday, Bro Axiom Gaming, I'm going to be on there with them, and we're going to be playing Street Fighter 6. It should be fun. A lot of trash talking back and forth with Mike and myself. And then we got a couple comics coming out next week, so expect some quick shots. We've got Star Bros going to have their podcast out. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast, and I can't wait.
Fantastic.
And of course, you can catch me this Sunday at Fan Expo. Sunday, June 4th at 1:30 p.m. at room 119A, which I'm just finding out now. Where the room is. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be talking
Sunday.
Sunday. Bigfoot's going to be there. It's going to be amazing. It's all about growing Star Wars and just how Pete and I are old and been there since the start. And the different generations of fandoms within. So I can't wait to talk about that stuff. And hopefully it's be there. Anyone who's in the Philly area be there. Yeah, for sure.
That's right. It's going to be good stuff. No question about it. I'm excited for y'all to get the opportunity to do that. As far as Around the Galaxy goes, as I mentioned this last week, I guess yesterday was Thursday, our conversation with Deborah Wilson dropped in the podcast feed. I encourage you to check that out. She, of course, talks about Jedi Survivor, Seer. But if any of you are, what's the Diablo game players? She talked about Diablo 4. She has a role in Diablo 4, which either just dropped or is about to drop or early drop. I don't know. I've seen some people talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's getting lots of amazing reviews as well. So she's in that. She talks about that. So check out yesterday's episode of Around the Galaxy with Deborah Wilson. And then this coming up Thursday, I have to say, I'm excited. This was a big one for me. W. Earl Brown, the Weequay bartender from Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian. He was in Deadwood. He was in Scream. He was in Something About Mary. He was in Seinfeld. Like, literally, if you look his IMDb, he's literally been in everything. And this is one I figured out right before we went on with him. He was Bill in The Last of Us video game, which was the role that Nick Offerman played in The Last of Us TV show. So that's kind of a fun, and he knows Nick Offerman because he did Second City in Chicago, like all these different things. He knew Jon Favreau way back in the day. Like, he tells us some really amazing stories. One of which I had to ask him about is essentially, you know, was it intentional that you get the same marshal and the same bartender from Deadwood to be the marshal and the bartender in Mandalorian? And they were both chosen intentionally casting, but it was not done as an homage to Deadwood. It was literally on set that Jon Favreau was like, holy crap, I just recreated Deadwood in space. Great stories, great guy. That will be in the podcast feed this coming Thursday. And I will just bump one more time because it's worth saying. If you're in the Philly area Sunday, go see Pete and Chris. Go to the panel, hang out, buy some swag, get some free stickers, cosplay, do what you do. I think that's it, Chris. I think we've done it. I think we've had an amazing show. I'm thankful to everybody who has hung out with us tonight. You truly mean the world to us. This show is about all of you. So thank you for being here. We're going to get out of the way. So as we like to say every time, Chris, may the force be with you.
Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.